everybody, and welcome. Welcome to August. It is August 1st that I'm filming this, and I just wanted to do my July wrap-up, let you guys know what I read for the month of July, and I'll let you know what my TBR is for August. So yeah, July is usually one of my most productive months of the year because it usually holds the reading rush, and I get a lot done. And same again this year, I was able to get a lot done this last month. So for the month of July, I read 6 books, which is awesome. I am now ahead of my reading goal for this year. For those of you who remember, my reading goal is to read 3 books a month. So I'm doing great. I'm on top of it. Yeah, I'm really, really proud of how I did, particularly during the reading rush. The first book that I finished was Henrietta and Eleanor, a retelling of Jekyll and Hyde. This book was, it was an audiobook. It was an Audible original, and it was so good. It was absolutely amazing. I finished it in one sitting, and it was just a really, really great retelling of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I've read the original for my college courses, and it was really interesting to listen to it again with female characters. Honestly, I think this audiobook did the main book justice. I 100% felt that this modern retelling of Jekyll and Hyde had the same like eerie, uncanny feel to it. So for that reason, I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5. Yeah, it was amazing. It was a wonder. I don't have anything bad to say about it. And when I don't have anything bad to say about it, it's a 5 out of 5. It was a great book, and I would highly recommend it. The next book, the second book that I finished for this month, I finished The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. And this book I read for the reading rush, and I also read, it was also on my essential books to read in your lifetime list, and it was a thriller mystery type novel, but this book is so good. So good. Absolutely amazing. This book is completely out of my genre. I don't normally read mystery thrillers, and I absolutely loved it. It just kept me on edge, and this book is one of the books that I couldn't put down. I actually read ahead, and I ended up wanting to really finish this book. This book is so good that I want to do a review on it and talk more about certain aspects of it and things that I thought were really, really interesting. So I'm going to hold off on giving you guys what my rating is because I want to reveal that to you in a later video. The third book that I finished for this month was Tarzan of the Apes. I listened to this book as an audiobook for the reading rush. And this book was actually the most challenging book I had because I found it challenging to listen to such a long book in the course of 2 days. But I really enjoyed it. It was really I really enjoyed the movie. Obviously Disney left out some things. I really enjoyed kind of getting into Tarzan's head a little bit. I've always really enjoyed stories about a man or a person being raised in the wild. I think that is so amazing, and this book is a series. It's definitely leaves it off on a cliffhanger. So I'm definitely going to be checking that out. I'm probably going to be continuing on with this series. For this book, I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5. It was a really enjoyable book to listen to, and it had a lot of really good aspects about it. It had some romance, and definitely had some adventure, and I loved it. The fourth book that I finished for this month was Children of Blood and Bone. This was another book that I read for the reading rush, and oh my gosh, it was amazing. If you guys haven't checked out my channel, I talk a little bit more about why I love this book in greater detail as I'm reading it. I just really liked how there was a lot of natural imagery, meaning that our main character is really deeply connected to the earth, and I really love that connection. I really enjoy the different perspectives that it has. So you get 3 different people's perspectives throughout this story, and honestly, it didn't make it jarring at all. I've read some books that it was really jarring when you had that point of view change constantly. This book, not at all, and I absolutely loved it. I'm going to hold off on what review I gave it because I want to do a more in-depth review on this particular book as well. The 5th book that I finished is my first manga. I read Cuckoos Powers of Natalia Volume 1. I absolutely love this anime. I've watched like the anime clips, and it was just such a fun read. It was really fun to break up the heavy reading and just like watch or read something fun. Natalia, for those of you who don't know, it's basically about like the different countries personified as different anime characters, and they go through like the history, and usually particularly World War. The Axis powers were Germany, Italy, and Japan. So we get to learn about these guys and what they're doing during the World War and get to learn some history as well. I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5, and that's why I said that I'm thinking about changing it. There was a lot of history in it, and I think that actually, I think that the history parts of it is really important. This is actually like a really good manga. I think that it has a lot of history to it. The style of it is really fun. These characters all have their own little personalities, and they all even have like their little bios. And so the last book that I read for the month of July was Hunting Violet by, I believe, Alexandra Harvey. So this book was about a girl named Violet who, her mother was a scam artist. Her mother pretended that she could talk to ghosts and use that as a way to get money. Violet starts to see like aspirations in the fog and whatnot, and when she finally gets there, they've realized that there was a death that year, that last summer. One of the girls had drowned in the lake. Well, Violet now starts seeing an actual premonition, an actual ghost of this dead girl who drowned in the lake. Or this one ghost is haunting her, and she's like dripping wet, and she can't speak because there's water in her lungs. So Violet's trying to figure out what happened, like how did she die, because she's come to determine that she didn't drown on accident. It was a wonderful book. It was a genre that I used to love, those kinds of books, those kind of like supernatural, being able to talk to ghosts and see ghosts. Like, I really love books like that, and I think I'm going to continue reading books like that in the future. Possibly in October. For Haunting Violet, I gave that book a 3 out of 5. It was pretty good. It was a little generic, but honestly, it was a really fun read. It was really fun. It was one of the books that it was the book that I laid outside and read and just kind of lounged around in the grass. So I hope to read more books like that, or possibly books better than that in the near future. And so now, you guys are probably wondering what I'm going to read next month, or this month, actually. Well, this month I decided to have a theme. Last month it was strictly, I wanted to save up all my reading juice for the reading rush, and this month I have a theme. It's going to be pretty fitting to our current social events of pandemic and apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic genres. Just that whole genre of dystopia and pandemic and what happens after the plague. I know that a lot of other people have decided to kind of ignore our own pandemic and delve into the fanciful world of different pandemics. And honestly, that's kind of where I'm feeling. Like, I'm feeling that this thing's never going to end. And for those of you who, I mean, you guys all know what's going on, but yeah, I'm starting to feel like this whole situation's never going to end, and I kind of just need stories that tell me it's going to be okay in the end. And hopefully these stories will do that. A lot of these books are pandemic themed. I'm not necessarily going to finish all these books this month. This is kind of just like a list of these types of post-apocalyptic dystopian genre books that I thought were really intriguing. I'm kind of going to have the mindset of, if it's not interesting, I'm going to pick up something else. But, so for my tentative TBR, I have a hard copy of The Giver by Lois Lowry. This book is on my 100 essential books to read in your lifetime list, and it's quite short. I really, really like that. It's a YA. I've actually had this for years. I've had this back when we were doing Scholastic book fairs. You guys remember that? Yeah, it's that old. But it centers around this boy named Jonah. It takes place in a perfect world where there's no war, there's no fear or pain. Doesn't that sound lovely? There's got to be a catch. I know that there's a catch. Basically, everyone's assigned to their own specified role in the community. And Jonah's role, when he turns 12, they can assign their communal role. And he gets assigned to be training as a giver, who holds the memories and the true pain and pleasure of life. I'm guessing, my guess, is that choice is taken away from everybody and they're being told what they're given. But Jonas actually gets taught about the past, and so to kind of like preserve the old idea, like through storytelling. So this is going to be really interesting. It's short. I love it. So this is going to be my sadly only hard copy that I'm going to read this month, maybe. The second book that I am planning on reading this month is called De-Evolution by Max Brooks. So this is like, I think this is the same author that put out World War Z, and he did a first-hand account of the Rainer Sasquatch Massacre. And so it's like kind of documents the massacre of, or the massacre made by Sasquatch, and kind of follows like some Sasquatch lore. So it's part survival narrative, part bloody horror, part scientific, part like all of that. It kind of is fictional, but it's presented in a very scientific way, which is something I love. And it kind of just follows the whole Bigfoot narrative. The third book that I'm hoping to read this month, I'm also going to be reading on my Kindle, and that is 1984 by George Orwell. I'm sure you've probably heard of it. This is a book that's on, another book that's on my 100 Essential Books to Read in Your Lifetime list. And this book was published in 1949, about what happens in 1984. Obviously, 1984 has already passed. This is George Orwell's imagination of what, or vision of what the totalitarian bureaucratic world is going to happen. And also it follows one guy's voyage to find his own individuality. What's interesting is a lot of the things, obviously he took some liberty into thinking about what the 1980s were going to be like, and it's going to be kind of like a distorted version of what he thinks the future is going to be like, and kind of personify some of his fears that a lot of people had during that time. So I am very excited to read that and check that book off my list. I've heard lots of good things. This is definitely a book that has been recommended to me, and I'm really excited to probably do a review on it. I'm probably going to. It's going to be one of those books that I do a review on and possibly even write a review about. Along with my Kindle choices, I'm also planning on listening to 2 audiobooks because I want to be able to do more free things with my hands. The first audiobook I'm going to listen to is The Cuckoos Cry by Caroline Overington. This is basically about, it's the eve of a global lockdown, and Don Barlow opens his door and finds a very pretty girl with pink tipped hair claiming to have nowhere else to go. He lets her inside his house and then begins this whole mystery of what's happening, and it also centers around a virus. He can't ask the girl to leave, otherwise he's being a jerk and throwing her out into the virus, but she seems to be a very dangerous individual, so he's can't really tell you to leave, but you're dangerous if you stay. So that'll be a really interesting story. And the second audiobook I'm going to be listening to is called Disaster's Children by Emma Slawley. The pandemic has happened, and there is a privileged community of wealthy survivalists in self-sustaining Oregon. So it's past the pandemic. Some of us Oregonians survived, and there's this boy named Marlo who's grown up here his entire life, but outside this paradise is called the disaster, which is climate change and troubled landscapes and catastrophe, and he's never been outside the borders of his own Oregon ranch. So he decides to leave her. It's a her. Marlo's a her. And this generally happens after they bring in the stranger, and the stranger is very suspicious. Marlo does not really trust this stranger, but that stranger's been accepted into the community, so she has a choice. She could stay in the only home she's ever known, or break away, taking its secrets of survival with her. So we'll see what happens. I'm really excited for that. Yeah, so that's another one that I am looking forward to listening to. I'm wanting to do more audiobooks lately because I have some projects that I want to continue working on, and audiobooks are a great way to do that. And for my last book, I always do a Goodreads book, but lately I haven't really been enjoying the Goodreads. I haven't been enjoying the Goodreads pick for my book club, but I still enjoy talking with people about, the different books that I'm reading. So instead of doing my Goodreads book club, I'm going to do a buddy read. And I'm going to do a buddy read of The Outlander #1. This is a book that's been on my TBR for about 2 months now, and I have it, and I really want to read it because I'm borrowing it from my little sister. I watched the show, and I really want to read the book. So instead of muscling through a book or putting a book on my TBR that I know I'm not going to read, I'm going to put one on my TBR that I actually want to read and that I've been wanting to read and talk with somebody about it. So anyway, that is my plan for the month of August. So my end of the video question is, how did you do last month? How many books did you read? Did you try anything new? Did you try a new genre? What did you accomplish last month, and what are your goals for this month? What are your reading goals for this month? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, I will check back in very soon, bookworms. Bye!